The Granger remembered before the tire blew was the radio going static. She was driving alone, along Route 119, somewhere deep in the Appalachian hills of West Virginia. No cell signal, no GPS, just the familiar crackle of AM country music keeping her company until it didn't. 1 minute, it was Willie Nelson. The next, it was whispering. Not voices, not quite, just something that mimicked language without being language. And then the sharp bang of the tire. The car veered. She gripped the wheel and fought it into a skid, grinding to a stop just inches from the steep drop at the road's edge. Her heart thundered in her chest. The dashboard clock blinked. 3:12 a.m. She stepped out into fog that was too thick, too wet, too unnatural. The air had a strange taste like metal and rot. Her flashlight flickered. The beam couldn't even cut. 10 feet ahead, Olivia turned slowly, scanning the road, the tree line, her surroundings. Then she saw it, a sign half buried in moss and leaning at a strange angle, as if it had been forgotten for decades. Welcome to Dagger. West Virginia population 482. There was no mention of Dagger in any modern map, and she would know Olivia was a freelance photojournalist, and her current gig was documenting vanishing towns across America. She fumbled for her camera, snapped a photo of the sign. Nothing showed up on the digital screen, just black, not night black, void-black. Suddenly, something tapped on the roof of her car. She jerked around. Nothing then again tap, tap, tap. This time she saw it, a pale hand, small like a child's, smeared with dirt, rising slowly over the edge of the car roof, and then slipping back down again before she could scream. She bolted into the mist, toward the town whose name hadn't been uttered in decades, whose roads weren't paved, and whose graveyards didn't stay still. Dagger was built wrong. Olivia could feel it in her bones. The roads weren't laid out in any discernible pattern, no grid, no loops, no logic. The buildings leaned. Some windows had been painted over from the inside. Some houses had no doors at all, just empty black rectangles, and the silence. It wasn't quiet, it was silenced. She passed the post office. The flag was still up. The door hung open, swinging gently. Inside, hundreds of envelopes lay scattered, many unopened, postmarked 1982, 1979, 1964. Her camera still wouldn't take pictures. Her phone battery drained to 0 in seconds, though it had been fully charged. She reached the center of town. A statue stood in the roundabout. Or, what had once been a statue. Its head was missing. The plaque at its base had been crudely scratched out. Only one word still legible: sleepless. A shadow darted behind her. She spun no one. Then she looked up. One of the second-story windows across the square had a figure behind it. Not standing, floating. The figure's head was cocked unnaturally. Eyes open wide, smile stretched too far. It watched her. It mouthed something. She couldn't hear it, but she could feel it. She backed away slowly, turned and collided with someone. A woman, mid-50s, dust-covered dress, apron stained brown. The woman didn't flinch, just stared, blankly. Then, "You shouldn't have come." Olivia tried to respond, but the woman had already walked away. No footsteps, no noise, just vanished into the side street, and then the church bell rang. 4 times, not 3, not 5. 4. The windows of every building slammed shut. The lights few still flickered, snuffed out. The air got heavier, thicker, as if Dagger itself had noticed her now. And Olivia realized something chilling. She hadn't seen a single soul since that woman. Not 482, not 100, not even one, except for the thing in the window. She broke into the library by force. Not out of disrespect, out of necessity. She needed to know what Dagger was, why it wasn't on maps, why the radio had gone haywire, why her photos came out black dot inside. Dust covered everything, but the shelves were immaculate, cataloged, maintained by someone. She lit a candle she found in the librarian's drawer. Every flashlight she'd tried died within minutes. The flame held, though it crackled strangely, like it didn't like burning here. The back room was labeled archives. Most towns kept old newspapers and photos in these. She prayed Dagger did too. She was wrong. It kept doctrines, bound books, leather covers, no titles. Inside, confessions, rituals, names. She flipped through one. The pages were written in different handwriting, different languages, blood, ink, charcoal. The entries didn't describe history. They described terms. In exchange for continued isolation, the town must provide no less than 4 per month. The sleepless one does not tolerate gaps. In offering, children are safest. The silence of children is sweet. The bell must ring 4 times. Never more, never less. She stopped. She recognized the name. Olivia Granger, written in red, underneath it. Today's date. Olivia's breath caught in her throat. Her name, in this ancient book, written in what looked and smelled like blood. Her hands trembled as she flipped. The page, below her name, were 3 columns: condition, purpose, and status. Condition, unmarked, unaware, pure. Purpose, noisebringer. Status, in progress. She slammed the book shut, heart hammering. Something was watching her. She could feel it pressing against the walls. Behind her eyes, inside her chest. Then came the whispers again. Not from the candle, not from the wind, from the walls. They weren't words, not exactly. They were intentions. Malice, wearing the skin of language. She stepped back, and the candle flickered violently. Footsteps, outside the library. Not walking, scraping, like something dragging limbs too long, too stiff. The door handle twisted once, twice, then silence. The air tasted like copper. Olivia bolted out the back of the library, down the alley, her breath steaming even though it was July. Every window she passed had pale eyes watching her, some human, some not. Then she saw it. A child, standing in the middle of the road, blonde, dirty, no shoes, pale dress, just standing. The girl raised a hand slowly, pointed. Olivia turned toward where she pointed. A crumbling 2-story house with crooked shutters and a porch that seemed to slump like a dying animal. On the mailbox, Granger, her last name, her family, had come from here. She stepped onto the porch, every board groaning under her weight. The door was already open. Inside, everything was coated in gray dust, like the house hadn't breathed in 50 years, but the dining table was set. Plates, forks, napkins folded, 4 chairs, 4 plates, 4 glasses. A 5th chair lay broken in the corner. Olivia felt something twist in her gut. She moved through the house, flashlight flickering again, only staying on when she whispered, "Please." Upstairs, a bedroom. The wallpaper had faded to yellow, but there were drawings on the wall in crayon, red, black, and brown. Stick figures. No faces. All of them with X's over their eyes. One larger stick figure stood among them, eyes open, mouth wide. A speech bubble above its head read, "I'll make sure you hear me forever." Something crashed downstairs. Olivia ran back down. One of the plates had shattered. Something stood at the edge of the room. A man, no, not a man. A thing that once had the shape of one. Its mouth hung open in a silent scream. Its eyes were gone, stitched shut, but it turned its head to face her anyway. It moved like a glitch in a video file. Staggered, erratic. Then it opened its stitched mouth and shrieked. The sound tore through her like a blade. She fell to her knees, bleeding from her ears. When she looked up, was gone, but something had been left behind. A photograph. Her father, younger, standing in front of this very house, holding a baby, written on the back, "I tried to leave. She found us anyway. Olivia." Didn't sleep. She couldn't. Not here. She couldn't. Not here. The floorboard with no one up there. The shadows grew longer, even though no light shifted. At one point, all the faucets in the house turned on. Black water spilled from them, thick and clotted. She stumbled outside just before dawn, and she saw the townspeople, rows of them, standing in front of their houses, silent, pale, watching, her mouths sewn shut, eyes unblinking, and every one of them crying. Black tears ran down their cheeks, some falling and shattering like glass. When they hit the ground, she tried to scream at them. "What do you want from me?" None moved. Then one raised a hand and pointed toward the church. She turned. The bell tower loomed. She heard the first ring, then the second, then the third, and finally, the fourth. But this time, the bell didn't stop. It kept ringing, again and again. The townspeople began to scream, but their mouths remained closed. Their eyes bled. Some fell to the ground. Convulsing. Olivia ran into the church. She pushed the door open, and inside saw herself, standing at the altar, smiling. The double turned toward her and said, "You brought noise, Olivia. You woke her up." Then it melted, right there in front of her, screaming, peeling. Its skin bubbled and tore. It collapsed in a puddle of blood and teeth, and behind the altar, the trap door creaked open. From beneath the church, the trap door groaned as Olivia pried it open. The scent that wafted up immediately made her gag. Rot, mold, blood, and something ancient. She descended the narrow staircase beneath the altar. Her only light, a dying flashlight flickering like it was breathing its last. Each step down was coated in thick dust and dark smears she didn't want to identify. As she reached the bottom, the flashlight finally died with a faint sizzle, but something else lit the space. A red glow. It pulsed from deeper within the catacombs. The narrow stone corridor ahead was lined with carvings, scratched violently into the walls. Symbols, faces and phrases in multiple languages. Over and over again, she saw one name etched into every surface: the sleepless mother. She moved forward, and the walls began to feel alive like they were watching, twitching with movement just outside her line of vision. Ahead, a chamber. In the center, a stone cradle. Above it, bones strung together like wind chimes, and inside, the cradle, wrapped in damp cloth that pulsed with breath, was a mass of flesh that writhed, as if it didn't know what shape to take. Olivia stood frozen. The air whispered directly into her ears. "Sing to her, Olivia. You're the last Granger. You have the voice. Give it to her." Suddenly, the cradle twitched. Something began to rise from it. Long limbs, a head with no face, mouths across its neck, dozens of eyes that opened across its torso like blinking sores. The sleepless mother had awakened. Olivia ran, back up the stairs, out of the church screaming, breathless. But outside, the town had changed. The sky was now a blistered crimson, and every building bled from the windows like wounds. The townspeople lay scattered in heaps, still alive, twitching, their mouths still sewn, but screaming without sound. And at the center of town stood the original altar, a slab of black stone rising from the ground that hadn't been there before. 4 figures in robes stood around it, chanting in whispers Olivia couldn't understand, but could feel. The sound wasn't heard with ears, it pulsed in her bones, made her teeth chatter. They beckoned her. Behind her, the church collapsed into itself with a thunderous groan. A voice whispered behind her, and it was her father's. "It has to end. With you, live." I tried to leave. She found me through the bloodline. She only wakes when a Granger returns. The ground cracked open around the altar. From beneath the earth, dozens of pale arms reached up, pulling themselves out, moaning creatures in suits, dresses, and uniforms from every decade. Former townsfolk, harvested. Olivia stepped forward. The robed figures parted. On the altar, laid out, was her own body, lifeless, perfectly still. The voice came again, this time from the sky, the ground, the trees, from inside her. Choose. Give your voice, or give your blood. She screamed, "Anno," and lightning cracked the sky. The sleepless mother rose again in the distance, half-formed larger now, pulling herself from the earth like a bloated insect shedding its skin. The whispers became screams, and then, silence. Everything froze. Time. Shattered. She blinked. She woke up in her car, seatbelt on, tire intact, radio playing soft country static. It was 3:12 a.m. She looked around. No sign of the town, no sign of the sign. Was it a dream? A hallucination? She reached for her phone. It turned on. Battery full. Signal strong. She opened the camera, snapped a photo of the woods. It appeared normal, relieved, but Olivia started the car and drove miles past the dawn broke. Civilization returned. She stopped at a diner, dazed, starving, sat down, ordered coffee. The waitress, middle-aged, friendly, smiled at her, then froze. "Hey, you okay?" Olivia blinked. "Yeah, why?" The woman stared. "You're bleeding from your ears." She reached up and touched them, wet. A TV mounted in the corner played the news. The anchor said, "This morning, a strange phenomenon occurred over West Virginia. An entire stretch of forest appears to have collapsed into a massive sinkhole overnight. No towns are registered in the area, though local legends speak of a ghost town called Dagger." Olivia's stomach dropped. She reached into her pocket. The photo from before, the one from the house, her father holding the baby. Except now, the baby's eyes had been scratched out, and written on the back, beneath the old message, a new one had appeared. "Thank you for the noise." Then her phone buzzed. New voicemail. Unknown number. She pressed play. A single sound echoed through the speaker. A fifth bell. Beaker. A fifth bell.